I was preparing for my first thru hike, I ended up cutting a lot of things from my pack. I cut out things that were just mere grams, trying to save any little bit of weight. And I ended up cutting some things that I really wish I hadn't. I ended up adding some things that I wish I hadn't added. And I didn't take enough of certain items to get me through the trip. In my mind, this was a mistake. I should have just stuck with the things that I know, the things that are tried and true, and gone with it. Hopefully, as I go through these items, it will spark some ideas in your mind that will help you not make similar mistakes when you're packing for your next long backpacking trip. Let's jump in. Now, I will say that I did test a couple of these items at home, and honestly, I wish I would have gone out at least for an overnighter and tested it in the backcountry in a real scenario, trying to mimic what my situation would be on this longer trail before I had gotten out there. Item number 1 on the list is a backcountry bidet. I took this with me, and honestly, I'm not sold on it yet. Not saying I won't use it again and give it another shot, but it was not the easiest thing to use. And honestly, it's a whole different ballgame than trying it at home. I had tested this at home a couple times, gotten used to it, but when you're out there and you're trying to wash your hand with one hand with soap and squirting water into your hand and getting all that off with one hand, and then you're trying to keep your other hand clean, it's just a different ballgame. So if you're going to go out there with a backcountry bidet trying to cut weight, definitely make sure that you have taken this on a few overnighters at least and given it a real shot to try and learn how to use this the most efficient way you can, because you will get out there and you will just wonder, oh my gosh, how do I dry my bottom? So I found that the way to dry your bottom is seriously just shake it off. Will I give this another shake? Yeah, the pun was intended. I think I will. I'll definitely give this another try. I'll take it out there and give it a shot, but that won't be without having some extra toilet paper with me. And that takes me to item number 2, which is having enough toilet paper. If you're going to be using toilet paper, just make sure you have enough. Take a roll of toilet paper. This thing here, this whole roll only weighs like 3.6 ounces. It's not that much. You're going to be using it. Yeah, I guess if you're not burying your toilet paper, then you will be carrying it with you. So keep that in mind. You're not going to really cut the weight on that. But one person probably doesn't need a whole roll of toilet paper. You could probably take a half a roll, or even do something like I do here, and just know each time you use the bathroom, you might use, a few squares of toilet paper. So just take that and make it into little sheets of toilet paper like this, and you just know how many you're going to need, and you can ration it. So that's another way to be able to save some weight if you are going to end up using toilet paper. The problem is that me and my son were out there and we ran out of the toilet paper that we did have, which is why I ended up using the backcountry bidet. I took the bidet as a kind of a backup option. If you aren't familiar or aren't comfortable with this, my advice is to definitely take enough toilet paper and not cut yourself short. Item number 3 is something I thought that I was going to absolutely love, and I'm still not totally anti, but it's these little sheets of soap right here. These are by Stand Sport, and they're just camp soap sheets, basically just little tiny thin pieces of soap. You can rip them in half and you get twice the use out of them. But the problem with these is you put it in your hand and you put water in it and it just gets kind of almost like glue. So it's really kind of difficult. You have to start to rub it really into your fingers and try to get it off of your fingers. It's not really the easiest thing to do, especially if you're trying to do it with one hand after using a bidet. And that's where I found that the biggest irritation was with it, is trying to make sure that I'm getting that all that soap off. And then if you use this on your bottom side, then you're going to potentially get soap up there, and that could cause a rash or whatever if you don't get it all off. So that was something that I found out with these is I like them for general hand washing. They're super lightweight. You have this little pack and you have like 50 sheets in here. You'll never use that many on a backpacking trip, but it's really nice. But I think the thing I would go to is some of that powdered soap, or just take sanitizer with me and use sanitizer. So this is something that I'm probably gonna continue to try, but it might end up being scrapped. Item number 4 is actually kind of really funny to me. The fact that I was so obsessed over cutting every single little gram, I ended up calculating out how many grams are in a pound, and I think it's 480 something if I'm remembering correctly. And I thought, okay, if I can only cut, 480 grams, then I've cut a pound. So I was looking at everything, trying to cut weight everywhere. And one thing that I did is I ended up using a smaller Ziploc bag for my poop kit. I usually use a gallon size Ziploc bag for my poop kit. And what happened is when I had the toilet paper in here, the trowel was always sticking out. I couldn't close it properly, and it was kind of a pain out there on trail, just trying to get everything to fit in here and close up tight. And I just ended up leaving it open, and that worked. But honestly, it was really kind of a pain. And I think it seriously saves a few grams. Don't try to cut every single little gram you can. I mean, just bite the bullet and take a bigger Ziploc bag if that's what you need to fit your gear in. It would have been so much nicer just to be able to throw everything in and not be constantly battling this not being able to close. Item number 5 is this slick line from Zpacks. I decided to use the PCT hang on this trip because I was carrying so much food. I normally use an Ursack, which I love, but it's just too small. It doesn't carry enough food for both me and my son for this trip. We actually had 2 food bags with us, and we were hanging them both on the same line. And so it was a lot of weight in the tree and a lot of weight to pull up. And what I found out with this slick line from Zpacks is that it works really well. For one, it slides over branches, it doesn't get snagged. It was awesome. The problem with it is I just couldn't get a toggle in it. And now there are other options, and I'm gonna try one of those. There's like a dog bone, but I don't think a dog bone would even work if I was to, because I think a dog bone, you have to have some slack and be able to put it through the hole and then wrap it around the end of it. But there are some that just have like little things. I'll put a picture of it on the screen, and basically you might be able to just go like this with it and wrap it around it and get the toggle in it. But I had this toggle right here with me, just a thin light tube of titanium basically, and this is something that I've used a lot when I've done the PCT hang. But the problem with it is when it's so tight and there's so much tension on it from the food bag coming down, you can't get any slack to be able to get a proper marlin spike hitch. But basically I would do a marlin spike normally, and I would pull this and have the toggle in it like this. So the toggle's now in the line, but the problem is if it's so tight, you can't get that marlin spike hitch in there. Oh my gosh, that is tough. I don't think I'm gonna be able to get a clove hitch or a marlin spike into that and be able to and not feel like I'm gonna cut off my fingers. It's like rubbing my fingers raw, which really caused me to have to just go to an alternative, which was tying it around, just running it over to another tree and tying it off. Tied it around this branch here, and this is gonna hold it for the night. And it's not the best, just because, I've heard that some animals have gotten used to finding these lines and stuff, but I think we're gonna be okay tonight. So I'm gonna call it good, and we have our food hung. And not doing a true PCT hang. It worked and it was fine, but I think that something that I would do next time is make sure that I either have 2 lines. This stuff's really, really thin and lightweight. So I'd either have 2 lines so I can do 2 bear bags and not have so much weight on one of them, or I would use one of those other options and one of the other toggles that don't require you to tie a knot in the line. It's just something to be aware of if you are getting a thin line like this. If your food bag is too heavy, you're gonna have a hard time tying a knot in it. So make sure you have another way to get a toggle in there for the PCT hang. All of that said, I will just continue using the Ursack for my smaller trips when I'm just going and I just have food for me and I don't need tons and tons of food and it'll all fit in here. This is a game changer for me, just getting out there and you don't have to look for the right branch on the tree. You just tie this thing around a tree and you're done.
All right, just retrieving my snowy bear bag over here. Let's go.
I wish I could have taken this with me. I guess I could have taken two, but this is pretty heavy as well. It's like almost 10 ounces, 10 ounces, something like that. But well worth it if I'm on just shorter trips. Item number 6 is something that I left at home, but I wish that I didn't, and that is some camp sandals. These things come in handy so much when I'm at camp. My son and I on this trip, we were out doing a lot of fishing. We were in the water. We didn't have any waders with us or anything to keep our feet dry. Our shoes were just soaked. And when we got back to camp, our feet were wet. They didn't dry out until we actually got into bed. And then we got up in the morning and our shoes were still wet. And we had to put on cold, wet shoes. So honestly, just walking around camp in a pair of these is just a game changer. These don't weigh very much. Honestly, this pair here, I made this pair. And they weigh 1.3 ounces each, or 2.6 ounces for the pair. And they don't take up much space. They just easily slide into a pocket or just right along the side of your pack or whatever. And they're just awesome. Just something that I won't leave at home again. And I'll take these with me and eat the 2.6 ounces and call it good. To be able to have my feet air out when I get to camp. Foot care is key, and I'm a firm believer of taking care of your feet, and if you can't get your feet dry, they're just going to continue to be just moist and damp and have problems. Don't shy away from a pair of camp sandals or camp slippers or shoes, whatever you take with you. If you are interested in the pattern or the material or whatever, just leave me a comment and let me know that you're interested in them, and I can send you some information about it. Item number 7 is a cold soaking jar. I took this Talenti jar with me. So I've got my cold soaked refried beans in this Talenti jar, and it's been awesome. Someone made a comment and asked if these leak, and they do leak. I did confirm that these do leak. The moment you put any pressure on it and give it will leak no matter what you do. I haven't been able to get these to not leak. So definitely something to think about if you are cold soaking and using a Talenti jar. It's pretty common to use these, but because they're fairly lightweight. I had done some cold soaking at home, but I'll tell you, when you're at home and you have a warm meal afterward, trying out some cold soaked meals is not like hard. And you're not going to get the same experience as if you're out on trail and you are cold soaking and you're not used to it. Now, keep in mind that I had not done any cold soaking before other than at home. And so getting out there, I kind of was like, my son and I, we were like, dang, we wish we would have just had a stove with us. So, you can take along a little alcohol stove. Just make sure that you have enough alcohol rationed out for your meals that you need, and you know how long it's going to take. Or just take your tried and true stove like this, canister stove, and get out there and know that you have a good stove that's going to help you to be able to have a warm meal. Granted, you do have to take enough fuel with you, and this does end up being quite heavy. Granted, it will be less weight as you use the fuel, of course. That's why some people opt for cold soaking, but then you end up carrying the water in here as well. So different things to think about if you're going to cold soak. Would I try cold soaking again? I think I would. I think the meal that I used in it was pretty good and I actually enjoyed it, but probably not going to be my go-to thing to do. I'm going to be probably just going back to a stove and being able to have a warm meal. All right, so there they are, the 7 top items that I came up with after my longest hike. Now, I did do a video just recently on the fact that I didn't go on the the through hike I was planning due to some other issues. I'll put a link to that in the description, and at the end of this video you can check that video out to see what happened and why my through hike didn't actually happen. But I did go on a long hike with my son, and we spent several nights out there, and I tested this gear as if I was out on a through hike. And I'm glad I did that because it gave me a bunch of experience. If you have any comments or suggestions or thoughts about any of the gear that I've shared, if you thought that this has helped you, give it a like and leave any comments in the comments section below. I hope that you're all enjoying your time out there while in the backcountry and that you're all staying safe, and I'll catch you on the next one.